Put that steering wheel over here where it belongs and let's start this review. This is something sort of different that we're trying. We've done midnight screenings, retro reviews before on certain older movies, like if they've had like a re-release to theaters or something like that, and if we have time to go see them, we'd certainly make time for it. But I mean, you and I have had a lot of conversations before about a lot of different things that you didn't grow up on, that you didn't see, that there would never be any circumstance when you were growing up that you would ever see some of these movies.
Yeah, because, I mean, my parents, and this is no secret, I'm a Mormon, or ex-Mormon, but I grew up Mormon, and my parents didn't watch R-rated movies or, like, anything raunchy or anything like that, so I didn't grow up with that kind of stuff, but... And so Brad will bring up things like really, screwball comedies, and that I just, it's not because I have no interest in it, I just didn't grow up with them.
One that's literally called Screwballs.
Yeah, which I've seen, but it's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, we watched Screwballs.
Yeah.
So we kind of thought it might be funny to watch some of these movies and get your input on a lot of these, like things like, we actually have a poll going on right now on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/thecinemasnob, and on the lowest tier on there, you can vote on, things that maybe we could watch next, stuff like Animal House, Revenge of the Nerds, Porky's, Screwballs is on there, Stripes, I put that on there. So we created, like, basically this list of movies, and it isn't so much like, oh, you've never seen this, you've never seen that, you've never seen that.
We're not trying to steal Tamara's show.
We are blatantly ripping it up. Coming up next week, Laura and Tamara have never seen Caligula. Actually, that would be really awesome. Oh, that's true. You have seen Caligula, so that wouldn't work. No, this is more so
Laura watching Tamara never seen Caligula.
This is more so just to get insight and opinion of someone who is watching a thing that is wildly outside of their generation and demographic. Something that I certainly grew up on. A lot of people my generation and older grew up on. But so we watched Caddyshack, and certainly a movie that I can quote now from the end of time. And I can't remember a time in my life where I hadn't seen Caddyshack. But what did you really know about this movie beforehand, before we watched it?
It's about golf.
Okay, there you go.
It has Chevy Chase. And I honestly thought Chevy Chase was kind of the main character.
He is the top build.
So you told me it was an ensemble movie, and I was like, yeah, okay, now I see it. Because I was, like, expecting a lot more Chevy Chase in it. But it's, I didn't know it was rated R, to be honest. And because they don't really even say the F word, I don't think once.
It would still get an R today.
It would, just because you do see nudity. But I also thought it was gonna be like, I didn't think it was gonna be as slapsticky as it was. I honestly really didn't know what it was, to be honest. Like, I just knew it was about golf, and it was like I know it's a 1980 movie, but, there's parts of the 70s still kind of run off into the 80s. It plays
Boogie Wonderland on the soundtrack.
Yeah, so I just kind of thought it was one of those kind of comedies, and I've seen a lot of those kind of comedies. I've seen, like, Funny Farm, and...
and,
like...
I love that movie.
Yeah, and, like, Foul Play, and Christmas Vacation. I couldn't see the first Vacation movie, because...
The first one's an R.
Yeah.
That happened a lot in the 80s, where I even saw this in the 90s, too, where the first movie would be R-rated, and then the second one, no. Like, okay, Vacation. Honestly, Caddyshack. Caddyshack 2 is PG-13. It's either PG or PG-13. I think it's PG-13.
Yeah. Well, even my parents kind of had issues with the Christmas Vacation movie, because he does say the F word. He says
fuck, yeah.
And also, my parents are like... When he has that fantasy where that woman that's coming out of the pool, even though she's wearing a one-piece suit, she's like, my dad was like, I was like, she's not doing anything.
Dad,
anyway,
you're interrupting Clark's fantasy.
It's like, he's not fantasizing about her. Anyways, so that's basically mine.
Would your parents have watched this?
I don't know. I would have to actually text them. My mom might, because she's a convert, and she was 15, I think, when it came out. So, I'll have to ask her, but she wouldn't like it.
I grew up, my family loving this movie. My dad, avid golfer. Like my dad
his
still.
license plate says it.
Yeah, it does. His license plate makes reference to the fact that he's a golfer, and my dad has golfed for as long as I can remember. Still to this day, he goes out every week and golfs when the weather's nice. So yeah, like when the seasons allow for it, and then when in the off season, my dad bowls. But again, like, so certainly with my dad and my dad's side of the family, we would watch and quote a movie like this all the time. Even with my mom, I didn't grow up with just men loving this movie. Every adult female figure in my life still would also quote this. Granted, yes, I grew up around lesbians.
Also, there wasn't that. I mean, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there wasn't as many like an ensemble movie with just women. Maybe around that time where it was like a slapstick comedy. Was there?
God, off the top of my head.
I mean, there's a lot more. I mean, like if you would have to actually think about it, that means that there's a lot more.
A lot. I mean, I can certainly think of a lot of, like, female partying movies, but they're also slasher films.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, I mean, there's just... if you have to think about it, that means...
Sure. I mean, I'm sure you guys out there can help me out with that. But, I mean, yeah, this goes along with Animal House and... Oh, I mean, hell, Doug Kenny co-wrote the script and he wrote Animal House. It's like Animal House in that you have a group of, I mean, hell, the tagline of this movie is the snobs versus the slobs. I mean, you also kind of had that in Animal House as well. I watched and grew up with this movie more than I did Animal House. As much as I like Animal House, as much as I really do dig that movie a lot. Caddyshack was the one that I always watched the most. It was just a collection of a lot of my favorite figures growing up, from Rodney Dangerfield to Chevy Chase, who I would put in my top 3 comic inspirations and idols for myself. Yeah, there's like his deadpan and everything. Yeah. Like I've taken a lot of inspiration from guys like Chevy Chase, like since I started acting and doing more comedy and things like that. With Caddyshack, it works in a way that I've seen other movies totally fail at. Caddyshack was a movie that when it first came out, it didn't get that good of reviews. It was a hit. It had like a $6 million budget, brought in about, I think, like $36 million at the box office. Mm-hmm. So it was certainly a hit, and it ended up gaining more critical favorability over time, especially after the second one came out. I'll get into that later, but
don't make me watch it.
It didn't go over well with critics because when you look at it and you judge it on like a story aspect, it is unfocused. It is one where they had a script that was probably a bit more focused and a bit more streamlined on the caddies and their relationships with each other. But then when you got guys like Chevy Chase, Rodney Dangerfield, Ted Knight, Bill Murray in this, and you just kind of let them go and do their own thing.
Yeah, because you said it was mostly improvised.
A lot of it is.
And you could tell with Rodney Dangerfield, and I've never really seen his act ever. I just know the name. I know kind of his shtick, where he's just like, I don't know how to. That was a bad impression.
You probably know the reference from Aladdin at least.
Yeah, that's where I was trying to think of, like.
I can't believe it. I'm losing to a rug.
Yeah, that's where I know that from.
Did you grow up with Rover Dangerfield?
No, I didn't. But I mean, obviously, I know he had to do something right with his, comedy. I know him.
What did you think about that with this movie?
With him?
I guess with a lot of the improving in general, the fact that this is very much an ensemble film, where they do kind of just let the actors go and do their thing.
Well, we were talking about this earlier, like, they do that now with, like, improvising, and
I hate it.
And, yeah, I really don't like it either. It's, and I don't know what the difference is, and we said maybe it's just, like, the editing, but, because I like Amy Poehler, I like...
You're talking about like the house and.
I didn't see the house, but I'm talking about Sisters.
Oh, okay.
I like Amy Poehler. She's definitely talented, but I think just when you let them go for just really repetitive joke, like when she was getting her pedicure or something, she just kept on going, and I was like, this isn't really funny. And other things, I'm trying to think of other comedians that do that when their leash is they're not on a leash anymore.
I think one thing that makes it work well in Caddyshack is one, the jokes are just better. Like the jokes are better. The characters that they're playing, yeah, Rodney Dangerfield is very much playing Rodney Dangerfield in this film, but it still feels like that's just what his character is. He's not something else, and then suddenly he starts doing Rodney Dangerfield bits.
He just comes in, kind of irritates the judge guy. I don't know.
Judge Smales.
Yeah, everyone loves him, and then he just always, like, when he drives the boat and no consequences, just drives the boat, almost kills a man.
I love 80s shenanigans movies, because that stuff happens all the time.
And then he almost hits the guy's boat, and then he's like, all right, let's put the anchor down.
Yeah.
And it, like, hits the guy's boat, and he's like, hey,
you scratched my anchor.
You scratched the anchor. And he's like,
because that stuff is just, there's a reason why that kind of humor has really lasted for decades, is because there's just something about it that works, where it's the goofball, lovable, slobby guy who is pissing off, like, stuff-shirted rich folks. You can trace that all the way back to, like, vaudeville and the Three Stooges, you know, and it works in this too, because they're good at playing those types. Ted Knight is brilliant playing Judge Smales, and Rodney Dangerfield, sure, your enjoyment of Al Cervic is going to depend on whether or not you like Rodney Dangerfield, because that's very much as what he is in the movie, but it works. He's never trying to be anything else but Rodney Dangerfield in the movie. It's not like it's not like The House, where they're trying to do this streamlined plot, but then suddenly characters just drop, and then he's Will Ferrell for 30 seconds, and then it goes back into shit. They're not really doing that here. And plus, it does help with the fact that this movie really is kind of just a series of sketches that are strung together, certainly. Yeah,
like you have the Bill Murray part where he just, like, slowly goes mad over this gopher, and he just gets obsessed with this gopher and, like, starts making clay figures. And usually, I mean, Chevy Chase interacts with him, and other people from the movie do too.
Yeah.
But, like, he's not always by himself, but most of the part he is. Like, you just see him and this gopher.
And it does tie into the climax of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this movie very much is like, okay, like, here's the pool sketch, here's the boat one, here's things like that. But the pool scene works, as at the end of the day, I think it's a fucking hilarious scene.
Yeah, and I was telling you during the movie, it was like, so yeah, this is really juvenile, but it's so much better than movies now that have very juvenile sense of humor into it, because, I don't know, like, it's just done better, because the juvenile humor now, like, when we watched Baywatch, the movie, it just was filled with, like, I mean, there's some good parts, certainly, but, like, I don't know, one of the first jokes is, like, he got his dick, like, caught in, like, a chair or something.
And it goes on forever.
There's no joke. There's not a punchline. It just keeps going and going and going. And that's it.
This movie knows when to edit.
And also, you said, like, I mean, with the chocolate bar, like, in the pool.
The Baby Ruth,
And there's, like, it's all nutty and gross. And they start playing the Jaws music.
Yeah.
And then at the end, like, one of the punchlines also is that Bill Murray, they're, like, cleaning and sanitizing the pool. And he just, like, found it. Oh, no, it's okay.
It's no big deal. Yeah, that's
a big punchline for that, and that's actually pretty funny.
And the reaction is funny, too, because Smale's wife still thinks it's a turd, and she faints. Like, there's other jokes to complement the fact that this is a candy bar that looks like a turd in a pool. Like you said, the Jaws music, everyone's reaction to it, the old lady, like, gasping. There's
a payoff.
Yeah, there is.
To juvenile sense of humor, which it just doesn't... I mean, there's definitely some that work now, but...
Of course, yeah.
I feel like it's overused a lot as, like, a crutch or something, like, just, like, you know, like, dick jokes, fart jokes, or like just something gross, just gross out humor for no payoff. It's just being gross or something stupid. Like you said, Super Troopers 2. Like it's like, you know, I didn't see it, but you know,
you'd love it.
Like I mean, I just kind of understand like what you were saying about it though, so I just kind of am grouping that in with what I'm talking about.
This film, a lot of the more gross out gags just they really go along with what's happening in the film. You have a character like Al Cervic who is just kind of this.
Which one was he?
Rodney Dangerfield. Oh. This loudmouth buffoon who's doing all these crazy, obnoxious scenes. Like, yeah, he farts in the thing, and he has a joke about it, but that does show the difference between his group of people and Judge Smales. You also get Judge Smales reacting to just how obnoxious he finds Rodney Dangerfield's character.
If it was me, I would be annoyed with him too. But,
sure.
But like you see how lovable he is by everyone, and I mean he farts and like everyone's like oh, and then you know if the judge did it, like everyone would be like ooh no, don't do that. But you know, and then he goes around, he's like, hey, tell the cook that his food tastes like dog food, and then for some reason the waitress actually goes and tells the chef, and he's like dog food.
I'm so glad you picked up on that.
They had to hold him back.
Yeah.
What was they gonna do?
I'm so glad you picked up on that. Because I love that gag, and I always thought the same thing. Like, that's really funny.
That's really funny.
Off-screen Maggie, Danny's girlfriend, went back and told the judge that his food tasted like dog food.
The judge? You mean the chef?
Or sorry, Al Cervic. That his
dog
his
food. Hold him back.
There's a deleted part too. You can see it in the trailer where he like throws a knife and it almost hits Danny in the head.
Oh.
Like it sticks in the wall and Danny's like, boom. And one of the unsung heroes of this movie, and he really never gets talked about unless you're quoting the Noonan line during the caddy tournament, is Michael O'Keefe as Danny Noonan. Like,
which one was he?
The kid.
The blonde kid, the main kid?
Yeah, honestly, like, yeah, the main character of the movie.
He is kind of he's the main character towards kind of, no.
He's what, he
maybe
really...
the middle part he wasn't. Maybe, I don't know.
He really has the biggest arc through the movie, and he has the main story, because in the script, he probably has the main story in the script as well. Everything is kind of shown through his eyes a little bit. There's side things that are going on all over the place, but even the stuff that he's not really witnessing, like the stuff with Bill Murray and the Gopher, like that does tie into the climax of the film, so they eventually kind of join up together. But this movie, like, one of the reasons this movie works so well is Danny Noonan's character, because Danny Noonan is the straight man of this movie. Danny Noonan is the only character in the movie that is kind of grounded in reality, and he has kind of genuine reactions to a lot of the crazy things that are going on in the film. This movie, it certainly goes in a lot of different directions, and it certainly does feel more so like kind of a series of sketches strung together. But without Danny Noonan, it would literally be that. And Danny Noonan is really what guides everything in this movie into each other. As I dance. Sorry, I forgot that my magic ends up flinging the phone onto the ground.
Yeah, you're right. Like he gives the movie a little bit of focus. Otherwise, it would have had like zero focus. But.
And I love Michael O'Keefe. I always thought he did a really good job in this movie. Yeah.
I mean, speaking of, like, focus, there were some parts, I'll have to say, like, that just kind of was a story that went nowhere. Like, the girl that was with the short brown hair.
Maggie, his girlfriend.
Like, she gets pregnant for no... Like, and then she, like, 10 minutes later in the movie, she's, like, dancing around. She's like, I'm not pregnant!
That is resolved so fast.
I was like, that could have been taken out.
And you can tell that there had to have been more stuff there, because it's a weird scene, because she's dancing around on the golf course at night and Danny just happens to be standing there like he's a ghost or something. Maggie, is that you? That is a weird scene. Like, I mean, props to the fact that it's resolved, I'll give it that, but
it didn't need to be there.
No, I mean, I was fine with it because
it wasn't distracting.
No, I'm fine with it in the sense that it is a minor plot in this movie that shows how much more grounded the Danny Noonan character is. He is a character that is in reality, and some of his actions do have consequences. Some of them don't.
The only character that has consequences in this movie
is Danny Noonan.
Yeah.
It makes sense because he's the only character that really isn't like a cartoon.
Yeah.
Like he, and I always Michael O'Keefe always really sold that. There was a movie he did. Real quick, there was a movie he did like a year after this. I can't remember what it was called, but it was with him and Karen Allen, where he was again, he was like a college student, and he fell in love with Karen Allen, but she was in a cult that was run by Peter Fonda, and he gets suckered into this kind of like Jonestown cult. And
is it
it's not a comedy, it's a thriller. Like, and Brian Dennehy is his dad, who gets a guy to kidnap him and to de-brainwash him, and his name in that movie is also Danny, and it's a weird sit because he looks like he does in this film, so it's like, whoa, what the fuck, did Danny lose his job as a caddy and fall in love with Karen Allen and become a cult member?
No, that should be the sequel to Caddyshack.
Yeah, fuck Caddyshack.
Even though I've
too.
never seen Caddyshack 2, I just hear how horrible it is.
There's so many great, like, it's a movie that's made up of a lot of great little moments, and there's little things that I've just always loved that certain characters do. Chevy Chase in particular, like when he does the thing about doing the shot where he does the lemon,
the
like,
cigar.
With him and Bill Murray. No, I mean
tequila?
when he does the tequila and he sniffs the salt and throws the shot over his shoulder.
This is how you do it.
And starts singing on there. That scene I love, because I even said this to you when we were watching it, where I go, Chevy Chase is really underrated as like a romantic lead.
I had to think about it for a second.
There's only been a few times where that's been the case, like Foul Play, Seems Like Old Times. And probably some other stuff too, where he's had like probably a love interest in them. But
where's the one with Charles Grodin?
Seems Like Old Times.
Oh, that's that. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that when I was really young, but
that's a good one.
Yeah,
Foul
I remember
Play is
liking it.
really good.
Yeah.
Foul Play is a solid film. In this, the one scene that he has, well, they have a couple of scenes, but the main scene that he has with Lacey Underall, they play off of each other really well.
Natural.
It's incredibly natural. He feels natural. She feels natural. They seem like they're just genuinely flirting and having this random date with each other, and he is insanely charming. He's another one who a lot of people quote, of course, Bill Murray, Rodney Dangerfield. He's one that was always one of my favorites in this film. And you laughed at one thing that I've always laughed at here, where when he's telling Danny the story about the guy who
when he was like,
putting at night.
Yeah.
And he
Take
goes,
a wild guess.
Bob Hope. Nah, that guy was Mitch Cumstein, my old roommate.
How would you ever guess that? Take one wild guess. You know what? I think it's your roommate.
I like you, Betty. Danny, sir. Danny.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the niece, Lacey. Yeah, she. I liked her character a lot. I wish she was used more. She they kind of forgot about her like towards the third act.
I like that she's there in the climax, like with
but
everyone
she doesn't really
else.
Say anything.
No, but I like that. There's a little thing that I love about that climax is like D'Annunzio is there too, who was the guy who was like through a lot of it was Danny's like antagonist, and he's there like cheering him on at the end when he was trying to fuck him up earlier. So I like that. I would be willing to guess in an original version of the script, Lacey Underall would probably have factored more into the climax of this film.
And I was kind of looking for, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, you can correct me, but I was like kind of looking for like some, because it's one of those movies that are kind of like very late 70s, early 80s, where there could be a lot of sexism in it.
What?
Or like a lot of, inappropriate behavior, and I didn't really see that. I mean, maybe there's some, like, as far as... I didn't really see it. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I missed it and I blinked, I don't know. But she's, like, really flirtatious, and she's not... No one shames her for it, and she's like, she just owns it, and everyone's just kind of like, yeah, she's hot and she knows she's hot. Like, at least that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And she just owns it. I like that.
Yeah, she loves being watched. She loves the attention. She like even the look on her face where she's
just
walking
like,
through
yeah,
the...
like, you know, I mean,
everyone in the pool stops what they're doing.
yeah. I mean, she I liked her character a lot when she was in it more.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I don't remember them, like, slut-shaming her at all, at least. Maybe I missed it.
No,
but...
other than, like, Judge Smales saying, like, let's keep my niece, you know, is kind of extreme or something. I forget how he puts it.
He's kind of unlikable.
Like, no, exactly. Like, he says, like, let's keep this between us or something. But even if he did say something really, like, let's say for the sake of argument, Ted Knight did say something really derogatory towards her. Okay, he's the villain of the movie. He's the snobby stuffed shirt guy.
Yeah.
It would make sense he would probably say something like that.
Yeah.
If he did, he really doesn't in the movie. Like,
and the other girl with the short brown hair, she said, "Oh, she's a rose that likes to be plucked" or something. I mean, yeah, that's not cool, but it could have been a lot worse. Like, I was, you know, for a movie in that time, I was like really expecting something way worse than anything that happened. But I mean, I could be wrong. There might have been something I missed, but yeah, I like that a lot. The only thing also that I had an issue with was or something I had an issue with was
violence towards gophers.
Yes. No, like, it was definitely a boys' club movie. So that's the only thing. And also, I don't like golf. So, so like, the third...
So really, you hated this film?
No, there's like, no, that's not, it's not
I
all
know,
about
I'm
golf.
kidding.
Like, it's like, the part, like, the third act where they're having that competition, there's definitely, like, jokes sprinkled throughout with, like, the Gopher and Bill Murray.
Yeah.
But it is mostly, like, a bet about who's gonna win this, and so that's the only time that kind of felt slow for me.
You did still kind of like when one of them like missed, you did still like, oh.
Oh, I knew who was gonna win. I didn't think it was gonna be a downer ending.
Well, that would be something.
But
ends like Last American Virgin. Danny drives away crying.
I mean, yeah, I was like, oh, like, I mean, but that lasted for about 20 minutes of the movie, maybe.
Yeah, and there, like you said, there's things going on with them betting on Spalding whether he's gonna pick his nose or not. And then
that was
eat
gross.
it.
I didn't want to see that.
That was hilarious. $10 says he eats it.
Ew, that's so
he must
gross.
have been hungry.
That's so gross. It was just the last act, like, that felt a little slower to me than the first 2 acts of the movie. I guess that's the third act of the movie, but
yeah, it's the climax of the film. Yeah.
Yeah, like, the first 2 acts of the movie, I was like, okay, you know, there's a lot of funny jokes going on here, and but then, yeah, the last part, I was just like, okay, it feels a little bit slower than it. Just because I really don't like golf. Out of all the sports, like, I mean, I like movies that have sports in it. Like, it's not like I always hate every sports movie, but golf is like the most boring sport. And I'm sorry if you like golf, but it is so boring.
This movie makes it fun.
I mean, yeah, that's true.
Wait till you see Caddyshack 2, you'll hate it again. You'll hate it even more.
I'm not gonna say
you would hate that. You would not like that movie. But no, it's, I mean, sure, yeah, I mean, it's like Animal House. It's like one of those where it's a boys' club movie, certainly. But, I mean, you know, so be it. Like,
it's that time of, you know, that era. You know, like,
I mean,
that's why I don't have an issue with it. Like, it was just kind of like, oh,
there's certainly that, but I mean,
it annoys me. But I'm like, whatever. It's that.
Every demographic deserves their own thing. This one, I mean, there's still movies today that are geared towards one demographic over another, whether it's like, male or female.
Like, even like This Is the End, the Seth Rogen movie, and like Judd Apatow movie.
Sure.
Like, that's all men, but I don't know why I don't have an issue with that one, but I mean, it's all men, but
yeah, I mean, I can see why someone maybe wouldn't identify with a movie because of that. Like, the same way that, like, I don't know, like, if I was to watch something that had a bunch of characters or subject matter that I really can't identify with at all or really have much nostalgia for or whatever, like, I get... I get that. I get why somebody wouldn't enjoy a movie like Caddyshack, because maybe it's just not made for them. Maybe it's not made for their sense of humor. Maybe it's not made for their age group or whatever. Or, you know, sex, maybe. But
Sex, maybe.
Sure, like, yeah, no. But again, I mean, I grew up with both sexes really enjoying this film. But that's, you know, we're talking a long time ago.
Well,
I don't know how this plays for the various demographics nowadays.
Well, I'm that various demographic nowadays.
Sure.
But I also...
You speak for...
I speak for everyone.
Uh-huh.
I could see a lot of my friends, not like a lot of people I know my age, even people a little bit older, not liking it. Just because it is... You can tell it's made in, like, the late 70s, early 80s, so you can tell, you know, like, a lot of people might not like it because it's a little dated, and they might just judge it right away for that. But for me, like, I was just viewing it objectively as a movie and whether or not it was funny. And I found it really funny. I mean, there's parts that felt a little slow to me with the golfing part, but and plots that didn't really go anywhere with the pregnancy thing. But overall, I thought it was really funny, and
did you like the Gopher?
The Gopher was really funny. He was just like, when Bill Murray, like, decapitates that clay figure of his, like, squirrel friend and just puts it in the hole, and he's like, oh no!
It drives him mad. It's me, your friend, Mr. Squirrel.
Don't worry, this is normal. There's, like, wires in it.
It's not a plastic explosive or anything. I love that. I mean, that is, like, classic Looney Tunes humor right there.
It
like,
is. It's very slapsticky.
It's so fucking funny when that Gopher is fucking running away
like
in the tunnels
and
he's just trying to get away with the water chasing him and then the explosions going off. I mean, it still gets me. It still gets me to this day. Like, it's just ridiculous, and it's funny. Like, it's like, yeah, and then
it's pretty timeless, I would say. I don't think.
Yeah,
like the humor in it.
I think this is a movie that still holds up. Like, I do. I mean, there's movies that, for whatever reason, don't maybe hold up today, but this one, I don't, and even those movies that don't, I still have no problem recognizing what parts of them made them work 30 years ago. This movie, though, I still have a fun time watching this film. And Caddyshack 2, like, okay, well, here's a testament to how good this movie works in its humor and bringing these actors together and directing them on screen, having them play off of each other, having them play off of their reactions and everything. And yeah, there is a lot of different things going on in this movie. Caddyshack 2 technically does have a more focused plot, and technically it technically does. It doesn't quite go off in as many directions as this movie does, but it sucks. Like, that right there shows you that, like, okay, you can have a version of Caddyshack that is technically more plot driven and everything. That doesn't mean it's good. Like, that doesn't mean it's better. Caddyshack 2 is fucking terrible, and I had to see it in the theater twice. Fuck.
Why?
Because my parents are divorced. So, like, my parents got divorced in 86. Caddyshack 2 came out in 88, and me and my dad went to go see it because we loved the first one, and hey, Caddyshack 2 is out. It's gotta be good. And then my mom wanted to see it because my mom also loves Caddyshack. So then me and my mom had to go see fucking Caddyshack 2. Jesus fucking Christ, it's
I'm
awful.
sorry.
It's like, my childhood was the worst.
I had to see Caddyshack 2 twice.
It was one where, like, you could tell the equivalence that the characters were supposed to be because it was supposed to be starring Rodney Dangerfield. And when he dropped out of it, they just changed the name of the character and added Jackie Mason to it. And as much as I like Jackie Mason, once Rodney Dangerfield dropped from this movie, you should have shit-canned this fucking thing. Because it's distracting. You can tell he's supposed to be Rodney Dangerfield's character. Like, he's the same kind of character. like he's a real estate developer and he now owns the golf course, and they do the same thing again where he's...
At least give him a different job title.
Yeah, like, seriously, it's awful. It's so bad, and it does the same thing where he's fighting against the snooty people in the club, and it ends in another, like, golf tournament. The only thing that's enjoyable about the second movie, Kenny Loggins does the theme again, and that's not too bad, but Chevy Chase is on total not give a fuck mode in it that's kind of inspiring. Like, there's a part in the movie where he just walks out of the scene. He just looks at his wrist and just goes like, well... bye, and then just walks off the scene.
He's already very deadpan, so it's kind of funny to think of him even more like not giving a shit.
It is just flat out inspiring to see him deadpan in total not give a fuck mode.
He was kind of like that in Nothing But Trouble.
That's a good movie.
That is a really good movie.
That's an underrated film, god damn it.
That's one of like my favorite movies.
Chevy...
Yeah, he didn't want to be in it, but yeah.
Chevy Chase has always been one of those guys for me. Like, yeah, he's known for being in bad film, in a lot of bad films, but even his bad ones from the 80s, I could easily still put on and watch because I just enjoy him so much. There is some, even, stuff like Modern Problems or weird shit like Under the Rainbow. I could still watch those because of him. Mm-hmm. Even Caddyshack 2, not that I would ever be like, oh, well, it's time to watch Caddyshack 2, but let's say for the sake of argument I had to. Well, I did do a snob episode on it a few years ago, but let's say for whatever reason I had to watch it again. I'm like, okay, well, the Chevy Chase scenes are still going to carry me through that, because my God, does he not want to be there. He doesn't even dress like he does in this film. He just dresses Chase just walked on set of this movie and said a handful of lines.
Where's my check?
Even in interviews, like he was talking to Letterman, going like, "Yeah, I think I'm in that. I don't know. They're gonna have to pay me a lot of money for that." You think you'll ever see Caddyshack 2?
No. You're really making me want to see it.
So, it would make me want to see it if someone undersells a movie that much. I'm like, whoa, man, I gotta see that.
I mean, I have a lot of other movies I really want to see. I don't know if that's the first one on my list.
No, but... you can go the rest of your life without seeing Caddyshack 2. It's not good.
So, did you want to say what movies are on the poll?
Oh, yeah. So we threw up, there's a poll over on Patreon. We got Revenge of the Nerds on there, Porky's, Animal House, Screwballs, and Stripes. And, we'll switch those up every now and then, too. Is there a particular one you're rooting for?
I mean, there might be more to talk about with Revenge of the Nerds, but I mean...
Like what, honey?
There's gonna be a lot of, I don't know. I might be talking about rapey shit, like, not rapey shit, but, I don't want to talk about, I don't want to talk about that a lot in a review. Mm-hmm. But,
So the next episode is I Spit on Your Grave, folks.
No, I mean, I don't mind that, but the kind that's, not intentionally rapey.
Oh, okay,
You know what I mean? Okay.
Don't spoil the movie, honey.
But, I would like to see Animal House or Porky's. I own it and I never finished it. I want to though.
Yeah, I've got them all in there. I have a clamshell VHS of Caddyshack. I don't know where it is. It's in there somewhere. It wasn't on my shelf. It must be in one of my many VHS boxes. I don't know why it wasn't on my clamshell shelf. Mysteries.
Well, it seems like Revenge of the Nerds has more material I can talk about.
Yeah.
It's something that probably doesn't age as well as the other movies, I would say.
Well, you'll have to see, baby.
We'll see.
There's plenty of Revenge of the Nerds that still holds up. There is. I don't want to turn this into a whole thing about Revenge of the Nerds right now, but it's one where I have no problem talking. I've seen Revenge of the Nerds many, 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 many times. And I have no problem talking about what still does work about this movie.
No, I won't have an issue with it. It's not like I'll be
you'll have some issues with the movie.
No, I will, but I'm not going to be I mean, the way I said that earlier made it sound like I really don't want you to vote for this. I mean, it's okay. I don't mind talking about it. It's just like there's. It's just gonna be creepy.
Any final thoughts about
Caddyshack, which is the movie we're talking about. It's really good. I liked it. As someone that is from the outside, I would say it's, for me personally, I would say it holds up. But I could see other people my age not liking it. It's, you know, and people being like really like nitpicky about certain things that don't hold up, which, you know, that's kind of the thing we live in now. So
yeah, then you probably shouldn't be watching Caddyshack to begin with. Like, why are... Okay.
But I liked it a lot, so I mean, yeah, so I recommend it to anyone who's my age, you know, and you haven't seen these kind of movies because you didn't grow up with them. I recommend it. And
if you get the DVD, and I think this might be on the Blu-ray too, there is a really good documentary on there called The 19th Hole that is pretty long and is a really good documentary about the making of the movie, and it's got a lot of the actors in it as well. So, all right, go on Patreon and vote, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.